Welcome back to Make It Stick. Let's jump into Flonky. 3 flashcards, here we go. What are the 6 sections of Chapter 2 to learn retrieve? Reflection is a form of learning. Testing effect, studying the testing effect in the lab, studying testing effect in the wild, exploring nuances, the takeaway. Nice. What are the 8 sections of Chapter 3 mix up your practice? 8 sections of Chapter 3. The myth of mass practice, space practice, interleave practice, varied practice, developing discrimination skills, something these principles are broadly applicable to takeaway. Dang it. Improving complex mastery for medical students, the only one I missed. What are the 7 tools / habits for calibrating your judgment? Well, testing / retrieval practice, peer instruction, pay attention to what cues you're using to judge whether you're learning or not, or how well you're learning. Corrective / peer feedback. Sure. Mentorships / groups. Apprenticeships, groups. Good. Oh, man, there's one, and then it's actual mistakes and experience in the field. Dang, dude, what am I missing? Simulations. All right. What did we read about yesterday then? We finished reading the spaced practice section, I believe, and the tips for students. So spaced practice, the last parts we read about. The more effortful the retrieval, the more learning occurs. Our intuition says that mass practice is actually productive, but it's not in comparison to spaced practice. We also have this false conception, common belief that you can just burn things into memory through enough repetition. Not true unless you use spaced practice. But if you're not, if it's all within one session, not true. Then we got into the third key strategy / tip for students, which is interleaved practice. Interleaved practice is a form of spaced practice, but interleaved practice is mostly talking about solving problems, or problem types. It's the idea where as soon as you get a rudimentary understanding of how to solve a certain type of problem, you throw that into a group where you start mixing it into other problem types. So you do one of these, then one of those, then another one. You're constantly mixing it up. Now, most people will not do this because, why? Because their intuition says this is more difficult, this is worse. And again, with masked and blocked practice, we see ourselves improve in real time, so we tend to believe it. However, the evidence says that it's much more effective than masked practice and blocked practice. Blocked practice is really a form of masked practice, but it's like you mix up within a session, but it's all one thing until you've mastered one thing, and then you go to the next thing, and then you focus that until you've mastered that thing. That's blocked practice. So really the 3 tips were like retrieval, right, spaced and interleaved, and it's like spaced. No, it's like retrieval, evidence-based versus our intuition, which is rereading and review. Space practice, which is evidence-based, versus our intuition of mass practice, and then interleave practice, which is evidence-based versus our intuition of block practice. So that's why this book is so valuable, is because it shows you where common intuition is wrong compared to what the science actually says, what the evidence actually says. So there's this batting practice study within some college in California. Basically, one group got blocked practice. They got like 15 fastballs and 15 curveballs and 15 changeups. The other group got just mixed up randomly. What did they see? Well, the blocked practice group got better and better and better as they kept swinging. Like within a single session, they got better within the session, right? And the progress was almost unnoticeable within the interleaved random group. However, over time, the interleaved group far surpassed the gains of the blocked practice group, right? It's kind of like quick learning and short-term memory, quick forgetting. It exits the short-term memory for blocked and mass practice versus interleaved practice. It's more difficult, feels harder, and the progress seems slower, but in reality, you just keep stacking on each step every day, and over a long period, you're up here compared to block practice, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and you just keep going up, but slowly, but you keep going up. Whereas this appears like you're going fast, but then you come back the next day and you're back to where you were pretty much the day before. Okay. Yep. I think that's basically everything. What do we got? We are just slowly marching through this book. Block practice, okay. Master reading. Wow, I was tired or something. Spelled that wrong. Okay. Discrimination skills, right? So interleave practice builds discrimination skills, which allow you to actually decipher what type of problem you're dealing with in the real world and know what type of tools / steps you need to solve it. Whereas block practice it's too linear. You know, you don't build the discrimination skill to be able to decipher between problem types that are similar. As well as this, through interleaving, you develop this conceptual understanding and deeper grasp of the underlying principles of the problem types you're dealing with. All right. Everything else, that's good. Nice. Right, mass practice feels easier, worse for learning. Space practice feels harder, better for learning. All right, that's everything. So, yep. Interleaved practice is superior to block practice. That's kind of the summary of that section. Now we're in this section. It's called Other Effective Study Strategies. What is this section about? All right, so I'll be back to recall in a little bit. So you're reading this section on other learning strategies that a student can incorporate that are effective. And we read about a couple, and there's a couple left, but we read about elaboration, generation, reflection, and we're reading about calibration. And then there's going to also be mnemonic devices. So starting with reflection, what is reflect? No. Starting with elaboration. What is elaboration? Elaboration is basically adding more meaning to something you've learned by multiple different things you can do. You can teach it to someone else, right? You can explain it in your own words. You can explain it using simpler language. You can use metaphors, connect it to visuals. You can connect it to what you already know. So what does it do? It multiplies your memory cues. That's one thing. So think about how much elaboration and reflection we've done in this book so far. Considering this, I think, is episode 102, and each episode probably averages about 15 minutes. That's 25 and a half hours of elaboration, essentially. That's a ton of memory cues. A ton. Crazy. Anyway, so it strengthens your mastery, develops your mastery further, and multiplies memory cues. Next up, generation. What is generation? Generation is really attempting to do something, attempting to solve a problem, answer a question before learning how to do it or being taught how to do it. So this leads to better learning after you are taught how to do it or you learn how to do it. It leads to just deeper entrenched memories, better, longer retention, more fluid understanding. Experimental learning, that is a form of generative learning, and this is basically learning from doing, okay? Reflection. Reflection is basically a combination of retrieval and elaboration, very similar to elaboration, except it's more narrow of a focus just on like thinking about or talking or writing about what you've learned and either explicitly or implicitly answering questions such as, what did you learn? You know, what were the key points? What were things that were new? You know, what could you do potentially better next time? What went well? What didn't go so well? Etc. That's reflection, and that is similar to retrieval and elaboration. Just it's overall leads to more mastery and better learning, more learning. So finally, calibration. We just started. What is calibration about? Calibration is essentially, we already did the Anki card, those seven ways to better tune your understanding of your own abilities and knowledge. That is really calibration. Calibration is like objectively aligning your personal understanding of, you know, your competence around something, your knowledge around something, skills around something with like objective feedback, such as testing or, you know, corrective feedback or simulations or apprenticeships or mistakes you make, etc. So that is it for today. Oh, dude, it's crazy. We're just marching page by page through this book. We're on episode 102. We're now on page 210, meaning we have 43 pages left. It's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, not that much. We're getting close now. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see these pages just absolutely filled with notes. Notes after notes after, I mean, yeah. We're over 50 hours into studying this book with effective strategies, so that tells you something. Anyway, that's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. See you.